Welcome into Carps Corner and another great episode here as we plowing through towards the start of free agency. We're right in the middle of the NFL Combine. Got March Madness on the horizon. St. Patty's Day coming up. There's a lot of great things as we sit here and plow towards the end of the month of March. Hard to believe that the year is already 1/6 over, and we'll be moving and turning the page from February 28th into March 1st. And so that's a big date. So we sit here, and if you're in the North, you're praying, you're hoping for spring to come soon. Like I said, and with that is going to come free agency. It'll come the draft, have spring ball. There'll be a lot of fun things we'll be able to dive into. But I want to get into some of this stuff. Number one, not to keep it to get too overly political, but I mentioned this, on social media this weekend. I think it's important to address is there's so often times now in athletics, and we want to hold these athletes to high esteem, professional athletes in the highest regard. And I liken back from when I was younger, and Charles Barkley throughout the athletes, role models, and how, the question mark. And it's like athletes shouldn't be role models, it should be teachers, it should be coaches, it should be their parents. And all those things are true. The reality is that young people are going to look up to people who are successful and that are famous and stuff that they love. My kids now ask me all the time, is that person famous? Like, well, what does that mean? Like, are they good at something? Is this singer, like, how famous is that singer? Well, let's focus on how good they are. The fame is merely thoughts that someone else has about you. But we hold these athletes now in such high esteem and high regard. And so often, like, they're great at their sport. Listen, throw myself into this category. You're great at your sport and you're a hard worker, and there may be a lot of redeemable qualities. But when the rubber has to meet the road, if you're going to throw a cliche in there, and all of a sudden you have to go become actually brave and actually defend something you love and care about, would you do it? And the Klitschko brothers, Vladimir and Vitaly, like they deserve all of that with what's going on in Ukraine and wherever you stand on it politically. That doesn't even matter. The fact that you have two men who are incredibly well off, who've reached the pinnacle of their sport, they're highly successful. Vitaly's a mayor, and they choose to stand and fight when it would be easier for them to tuck and run, to be able to get out of there, get safe, go somewhere where they wouldn't have to worry about any of this, and they could take their millions, they go count it on a beach. But rather than do that, they chose to stand up, to grab a weapon and stand a post, to grab a line from A Few Good Men, delivered by Colonel Nathan Jessup. And so that's what they chose to do. And for that, I have an infinite amount of respect for them, because that's the only thing I think you can have. You can't question their motives. They're putting themselves in harm's way. Everybody sees the footage of what's going on over there. It doesn't look like a pleasant place to be. They're trying to keep able-bodied men in the country to fight for something that they love in their homeland. And so they chose, they probably could have snuck out like thieves in the night. They chose to stand there and fight. And for that, I think it's incredibly honorable. I think these men should sit there and they should become the shining example. And there's been instances of this in the United States. You look at World War II and all the men that left playing football and baseball and all these things. When Ted Williams is flying planes. They're shooting down enemy fighters. Like this isn't the first time it's happened. You look at Pat Tillman and what he ultimately went and did. Former teammate of mine in New England, former Arkansas Razorback, played for the Patriots. Now running for Senate out of the state of Arkansas. Jake Beckett went and did the same thing and went and served in Afghanistan, and gave up an NFL career. So it has happened. But this is real. This isn't something these guys enlisted. They didn't do any of those things. Said our country needs our help. We're here. We're visible people. And our mere presence is going to invoke emotions and passion and positive feelings and hopefully inspire other people, not just from our country, but from around the globe to get involved. And they inspired me. And so to the Klitschkos, I tip my cap, because that's the best that I can do from safety thousands of miles away. but just let it be known that you guys are the pinnacle of what we expect and what we hope our athletes can be. Not just great on the competitive fields, but when called upon to do something that isn't financially rewarding, that you're going to actually potentially make real sacrifices, giving the greatest gift you can give, which is your life or the life of a loved one. When they were called upon to do it, they answered the bell. Maybe they thought twice about it, but it didn't look like they did. And so for that, like I said, I tip my cap. And as we get into talking about some, sports and things that are going on in the off season and how much money this person should make and how much this person should make, and should they be traded or should they be released, and what these rosters should look like. Are we building around the right people? Are we constructing teams the right way? Just remember that there's two men over there getting it done, and getting it done in a big way and in a real way for their country. Now on to the show. As I get off my soapbox there in my soliloquy, Aaron Rodgers, what is he going to do? He goes on Pat McAfee every Tuesday. We'll probably know sooner rather than later his decision. I ultimately think he's going to stay in Green Bay. I think they bring Devontae Adams back. I think they run it back simply because I don't know if there's a better place to do it for him. I think they can get everybody under their cap and they can figure it out. Now, it's rumored and reported that Aaron maybe wants $50 million. Is he worth that? Well, he's a two-time back-to-back reigning MVP. He's won 4. He's won a Super Bowl. If they struggle to the playoffs, have they made it back to a Super Bowl? No. He's got to a number of NFC championship games, I believe 5. But you got to pay the guy. He's worth every penny with what he's been able to do. Like I said, he didn't ultimately win the Super Bowl last year. That's one guy. They've got to help him out. They have to continue to do those things. I think he has a good roster around him. They were pretty healthy last year. They just came ultimately short. But, you don't really hear anybody pushing back on Aaron Rodgers for the $50 million number. And I get it. If you want to win, people always say, take less money. Yeah, you can do that. And guys that say, hey, I want to win, and they take less money, I have a lot of respect for them. Put their money where their mouth is. They say they ultimately really want to win, and then they go and prove it and they show it to us. But ultimately, you can get creative with the cap. And Aaron Rodgers is at the end of his career. They can continue to push money out for him and push money out for his team and go all in for another year or two to make sure that he's going to have everything that he needs. Now, their GM, Brian Gutekunst, came out and he also said last year there was no promise that I was going to trade him after the season. They made his contract so that it would potentially be easier. They lopped a year essentially off his deal. They pushed some money around, but he never said, or he never committed or promised to trading the former MVP. And I get it. Like, who would come out and now overtly say that? And I don't think Aaron probably asked him to say that. So just be fair with me when the time comes and make some concessions now. It wouldn't shock me if they trade Jordan Love and admit that they made that mistake. And this is the other thing when people talk about, well, is he worth $50 million? Well, Pat Mahomes is, Aaron Rodgers is. You're not asking to give him a 10-year, fully guaranteed $50 million per year deal. That's not where he's at in his career. But you have a first-round draft pick who is salary protected under that rookie deal, who's taking up a roster spot, who's not playing. And when he got in, you saw what it looked like. And so they could have chosen to use Jordan Love's roster spot on somebody else that would have helped the team at a reasonable rate, given where they would have been drafted, but they didn't choose to do that. And so the fact that Green Bay's in a little bit of this cap hell right now, I don't feel any sympathy for him. And I don't think anybody else should, least of all, Aaron Rodgers. He's the guy that has carried them for so long. And yeah, they've been great. They've won 13 3 years in a row. And I think Matt LaFleur is a good coach. Devontae Adams, great. O-line was pretty good this year. Defense has been better. They've got all these things going for them. But they don't have Aaron Rodgers. They're probably not even a 500 team. Maybe right on the cusp. We saw what happened with Jordan Love when he went in there. So we can sit here and hem and haw about all these things. You can say, Aaron, if he really wanted to win, maybe he should take $0. And maybe he's just floating this out here because make no mistake about it, folks, when things get leaked out, they're getting leaked out for a reason. There's a reason why you hear stuff about Aaron Rodgers. We've heard stuff about Russell Wilson, heard stuff about Kyler Murray, who we'll get into. All those things get leaked out for a reason. They're either coming from the organizational side or they're coming from the player's side. And you have to understand as you begin to hear it, what would be the motive? Why would those things come out? And maybe Aaron's leaking this out so that he can ultimately look like the good guy if he takes less. Because if he puts out 50 million, no one's probably going to bat an eye. They're not going to sit here and shake their head. You say, well, do you really want to win? Do you want to go somewhere else? Would there be someone else that would pay you? Yeah, absolutely. There would be teams that would line up to pay Aaron Rodgers that money because they know with him, you have a chance. Without the quarterback, you don't have a chance. So there will be people that would line up to pay that. That is why he is in a uniquely powerful position to be able to dictate terms and be able to make sure that he can push forward and try to get everything that he wants. And maybe he's only asking these things right now so that he can pull off of that and get a little bit more roster control. And hey, we brought back Randall Cobb last year. Is there anyone else? Who else could we maybe bring in and, help sculpt this team offensively, defensively, whatever it's going to look like, whatever it could be. Maybe that's why he's doing it, to potentially push back a little bit there and to give himself a negotiation and a bargaining chip to be able to come to the table with at a later date. It may be brilliant. He did his 12-day cleanse. I don't even want to think about what that would be like. Sounds about like 18 different types of awful, but maybe he's in a good headspace now and he's moving forward in a positive way. But Aaron Rodgers is someone who is worth $50 million. Now the question becomes, Kyler Murray, is he worth $50 million? So Kyler Murray issued a statement through his agent, really from his agent. And this is where we're at now. If we're going to talk about Kyler Murray and his inability to lead and get people to follow, I think this speaks to that as much as anything. If you want $50 million a year, or you want a new deal and you want to get paid, and yeah, you hire an agent. But if you're a franchise guy and they're jerking around, come out and say, listen, I want to get paid. This is what my market value is. These are my comps, and this is why I'm worth it. Just put your name on it. Instead of having your agent him and haw about fair contracts, put a dollar amount on what you're looking to get per year. That's why the Cardinals have leaked this stuff out. That's why the stuff came out about leadership. We'll get all that. So this was the statement that was released from Kyler's agent, Eric Burkhardt. Kyler wants to be direct with loyal Arizona Cardinal fans and the great community of the Valley, and stating his two very important goals and objectives. Sounds modest enough. Number one, bold. He desperately wants to be your long-term QB. Sounds good. Two, he desperately wants to win the Super Bowl. And so absolutely wants to be your long-term QB and desperately wants to win a Super Bowl. I believe those two things are true. I think Kyler Murray likes Arizona, likes playing for Cliff Kingsbury. I think he wants to win a Super Bowl. Seems like a pretty competitive guy. His body language gets a little wishy-washy, but I'm not going to sit here and judge him on that. He seems like a guy who's pretty competitive. And when he needs to go run, he runs. When he needs to throw, he throws. I've never seen anything from Kyler Murray that leads me to believe that he is a selfish human being. Despite all of Kyler's energy being focused on the future, very proud of the franchise, extreme turnaround and competitiveness and success since his arrival, alongside his teammates, his coaches, a successful and valuable young foundation for the organization has been built, yada, yada, yada. A 3-year track record. It's undisputed what he's been able to do. Walked into a 3-win team. As I'm summating this now, in their 3 seasons with Kyler taking these big steps, stepping into a tough situation, being named the starter day one, and has delivered and exceeded all reasonable expectations. I like how they put that in there. That's definitely attorney speak. Delivered and exceeded all reasonable expectations. Because people could say, well, hey, it could have been Pat Mahomes. Why didn't you do that? Sit for a year, take him to an AFC championship, win a Super Bowl year 3. Could have done all those things. winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, then followed by back-to-back Pro Bowls and the ultra-competitive and QB-loaded NFC. Now, here's the thing with Kyler. We're going to get into all this. Wants to be compensated in line with the current QB market that compares his results alongside relevant comps. It's like real estate. We're going to take a look at this and see where you stack up, see where you match up, where the guys are around you, Kyler, how all that looks. But there is some misinformation here. Like you said, already leading, two-time Pro Bowler, led the organization to 3 wins before his arrival, 11 wins, their first playoff appearance in 5 years. All that's true. But who else has made a Pro Bowl and an NFC loaded quarterback conference? Mitch Trubisky. He's made a Pro Bowl for the Bears. He's not even with them anymore. He was a first-round pick, second overall pick. You know who else has led their team to an unbelievable turnaround? Took him 3 years from not winning a game. Baker Mayfield had a step back this year. Didn't play quite as well. You know who else who played really well? Talking about the MVP voting. Great deal. Got a massive deal. Then they had to try to find a way to get out from under it. Carson Wentz. He's another example. Quarterback was the number 1 overall pick, led his team to the Super Bowl, and they traded him off to be able to bring in someone else. Jared Goff. There's a number of guys that are in this situation that have done some of these things. And the only reason Kyler Murray made the Pro Bowl this year was because Aaron Rodgers backed out. Let's not act like he was a guy that was right up there at the top. The Pro Bowl is so watered down now because so many guys elect not to play, especially at the quarterback position. And so while I think Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, and I respect him, and I think that he's going to continue to do some great things, he wants $50 million a year. I can't pay Kyler Murray $50 million a year right now. In 3 years, yeah, he's got you to the playoffs. He lost Hopkins, AJ Green. They were beat up at receiver. I get all of that. They also got rolled pretty good. I'm not going to hold that against him. But I also can't pay you for something that you haven't done yet. Pat Mahomes got $50 million a year. Pat Mahomes has been to 4 straight AFC championship games, been to 2 Super Bowls, won an MVP. He's done all those things. Aaron Rodgers won 4 MVPs. He's up there. Josh Allen had his team on the cusp of the AFC championship, was dueling Pat Mahomes. Lost not because he didn't play well enough, lost because he ran out of time. And so there's a lot of really good quarterbacks, a lot of really good young quarterbacks, but you can't make the mistake and pay the guy too early. And I can't sit here and tell you that if you pay Kyler Murray, you wouldn't regret it one day, because I didn't think that would happen with Carson Wentz. Didn't think it would happen with Jared Goff. Those 2 guys are no longer with their teams. 1 and 2 picks overall. Mitch Trubisky, they never even got to the point where they're going to pay him, but he made a Pro Bowl. That's what I'm saying, that watered down Pro Bowl. Mitch Trubisky made a Pro Bowl. He's going to be a good backup in this league, but he's not a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And so you want to throw all these comps and $50 million. Kyler, I'll pay you 40 if I'm the Bidwells. I'll give you a 5-year, $40 million deal, maybe 6, 7. We'll figure out the cap numbers. But if you want to get to 50, you're going to have to play another year. We're going to have to win some playoff games, at least win 1. I'm going to have to see you reproduce those efforts so that I know that we're able to do that and they're replicable to be able to have long-term success. And this isn't just a one-off year, a flash in the pan, or up, down, up, down. We need to make sure that you can do this all the time. You got to stay healthy. And I understand why Kyler wants to get paid, but he's an undersized quarterback who's had some good times and has done some good things. But I'm not paying Baker yet. I want to see another year of Baker. I've seen some really good. I've seen some bad. I got to see a little more. I've got to see a little more of Kyler. I can't get you there. And so you know why? He's sitting here saying all these things about the attack on his reputation and finishing off. Kyler remains hopeful that the organization chooses to commit so that he can continue leading the Cardinals to further success and value for many years to come. I believe he wants to do all that. I believe it's his agent's job to get him paid. I also believe it's a quarterback's job to lead, a quarterback's job to go win games and get it done when you need to. And he's been close. He's been right there. But I can't get him from that threshold of good to very good to paying him like one of the greats until he goes out and performs like one of the greats on a consistent basis. In 3 years, unless you're dominating for 3 years, and I know what you are, I can't get you there yet. Can't do it, Kyler. And so you put out this nice little deal, and it's all well and good. I highlighted some of it. I looked through here talking about the commitment to the organization to see if their ultimate goals align with his too, consistently competing for championships and Kyler being their QB. Actions speak much louder than words in this volatile business. They do. They do speak much louder than words. And so you just issued this whole thing, put a lot of words on a page. Kyler has some production. He's been good. I'm not saying he's been a bad quarterback. I'm not saying not even to pay him. I'm saying you're not paying him $50 million a year, which has been leaked out that he reportedly wants, which I believe that that's the case because the Bidwells in the front office for who I'm not saying they're a great ownership group either, but you're not leaking that out unless you're at a stalemate of negotiations and you're not going anywhere. And the Cardinals are probably a lot where I am. Listen, we'll pay you, but we're not paying you Pat Mahomes money unless you play like Pat Mahomes because there's been Mitch Trubisky, there's been Carson Wentz, there's been Jared Goff. We're not sure yet on Baker. Jared Allen's gone and produced and he's done it. Made a couple of Pro Bowls and you made the playoffs. Great. Let's make the playoffs again. Maybe win a game. Go make a Pro Bowl in the top three quarterbacks selected in your conference and not have to get in there by being an alternate and hoping that Aaron Rodgers opts out or someone else opts out or whoever it is. Brady and Breeze are gone. It's still pretty loaded up. We'll see where Russell lands. But situation here with Kyler, like if you want 50, come out and say you want 50 if you feel like you deserve it. I don't think he's there. More quarterback news. Russell Wilson. He's a guy that got paid a lot, $40 million, I believe, a year. Now he wants out of Seattle. Seattle's probably in a rebuild, and they'd probably be wise to move on from him. But the big news, Avatar Gate. Now we look to guys' social media. What are they saying on social media? What are they ultimately doing? Russell Wilson removed the Seahawks avatar from his social media page, scrubbed it, got it off of there. Does he still want to be back in Seattle? Well, that's going to be the big question. I don't think Russell will ultimately be back in Seattle. I think they need to find a trade partner for him. They need to get this thing figured out. He has some good prime left in him. He's got good years. But if you look at the Seattle roster, it is slowly eroded over the last 4 or 5 years, to the point where they made the playoffs 2 years ago. But this year, they're going to shell themselves. I understand you got DK Metcalf. You're working to keep that offensive line together. You want to try to develop a running game, but it just seems like they need to have a reset. The question becomes does Pete Carroll want to be around and want to work through that reset, when he's sitting there around 70 years old? I can't think that he does. I think he wants to win. He probably realizes Russell's his best pathway to get there. And so they're trying to thread this needle with appeasing him, paying him, and then also trying to rebuild and revamp a roster that for 4 or 5 years was all defensive based. It's shift to the offense. Now the defense is struggling and the offense isn't good enough to carry them. And they're playing in a division with San Francisco that's got a good D and a nice offense. The Rams that are incredibly explosive on offense with great pass rushers. And the Cards who have gotten a lot better and their defense has improved. They got Kyler Murray. I mean, it's a tough division that they are in. Kyler Murray told us that. His agent told us that. And so that's why I think Danger probably wants to get out of there. Send him to Denver. Send him to somewhere else. Scrubbed off the Seahawk. I think he's done. Russ is a really nice guy. But here's the thing that Russ has done that Kyler Murray hasn't. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to another. He's been to Pro Bowls. He checks a lot of boxes now. For his tenure in the league, he has achieved a lot. And so because of that, I give Russell Wilson a greater benefit of the doubt than I give Kyler Murray. And I also hear Russell Wilson get out and talk in public. Now, he hasn't ultimately come out and said that he wants to be traded. And I don't know if he ultimately has to do that. They're having conversations internally. But I think they know that he wants out and he wants to move on. Bruce Arians, his quarterback situation. Tom Brady's gone. Before Tom, he had Jameis Winston. So Jameis Winston then went to finishing school with Sean Payton. He was sitting behind Drew Brees, came in when he was injured. He played pretty well for the most part, but he still has a lot of those tendencies inside of him. And so when it was brought up that maybe they could go back there, the word got out quick. The BA was not interested in bringing back Jameis Winston. No desire to do it. I don't blame him. But here's the one thing that's interesting about it. Comes out, and to kind of stave that off, that narrative that, hey, you know what, maybe Jameis is in a better spot now. Maybe he'd be better suited for your offense. He's in a better position. That, you know what? We like Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert has just never been in a winning situation, which, you know, in all accounts has been pretty true. It's been a backup, bounced around San Fran. Obviously, he was with Jacksonville. But now he's in this winning situation. He should have talent around him. The Bucs are going to have to retool some things. I'm excited to see the Blaine Gabbert area. If Bruce Arians can do with him what he thinks and put him in a position to have success and be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. I mean, that is, that's some big shoes to fill. And for a guy that's kind of been labeled that bust, career backup, hasn't really got a chance to do something, I'm pulling for Blaine Gabbert. I hope he gets it done. And maybe BA is right. He's a smart guy. He gets it. He understands quarterback play in the NFL. He understands that Jameis Winston, despite his arm strength and all the things he has, he's going to throw a lot of picks. And if he tempers that back, then he's just not going to throw as many touchdowns. And you don't think he can be good enough for you. He's always going to have too much of a downside. But Blaine Gabbert, we'll have to see. It's exciting, man. If Bruce Arians makes a big bet on this and is right, BA will look like a genius. So I'm waiting to see that. I'm cheering for Blaine Gabbert. I want to see him be able to have success. Finally, be put in a good situation with some solid weapons, defense around him, an offensive line that they can hopefully protect. Finish up with this. Amazon is entering the NFL fray. They've dabbled in it, and had some games on Thursday nights, and they've had some social media games that we've seen the NFL do. This is the first time. Thursday night package, boom, it's going to Prime. And Amazon, they're the biggest gorilla in the room. They're massive with what they can pay. They reportedly went after Aikman, and he's reportedly taken the ESPN job. Reportedly went after John Lynch to get him back on the TV screen and out of the GM chair with San Francisco. They're reportedly taking a run at Herbie, which I think Herbstreit does a fantastic job on college. He does a good job on NFL. I don't think he likes doing the NFL as much. And so because of that, I don't think there's going to be the passion there. I don't think he would be as good at it simply because he doesn't enjoy the NFL near as much as he enjoys the college game. And they've reportedly already grabbed Al Michaels. And so Amazon is the biggest bully on the block. They can pay people whatever. And the NFL loves getting Amazon and Jeff Bezos involved because you can talk about ESPN, ABC, you can talk about Fox, NBC, CBS, peanuts compared to what Amazon can bring to the table with paying their talent and paying for broadcasting rights and what they'll do to stream this thing and try to take it to the next level because they want to continue to pump their streaming services. And this will get people to buy it. Heck, we've been Prime members for years. I thought it was just for purchasing things. Then all of a sudden we got the music. We got the shows. We got all this stuff out there. But they're the biggest and baddest on the block. And that's why you'll see them getting involved. You're going to see Apple continue to get involved. These other streaming services, these tech companies that have massive cash and these massive valuations to be able to get in there. And the traditional broadcast media, they're going to struggle to compete. They're going to struggle to compete with this. So we'll see as the NFL tries to straddle this line between new school and old school when you got Amazon knocking on the door with big cash ready to dole it out. It's going to be a wild time. Well, that's it for this edition to Carps Corner. Thank you for tuning in. Continue streaming on my YouTube channel. We're going to continue to bring more and more content, more combine, some combine updates. We'll get you draft previews. We're going to be able to hammer through all this to make sure we're getting to all the stuff that everybody wants to hear. Lots of football, lots of sports, and keep you entertained. Thanks, folks.